The fall of British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is one of the ages, a dramatic match for his personal charisma and the daring he showed in supporting Brexit that brought him to power. Brian Gard brings us the feature Rise and Fall of Boris Johnson.
The life of a prime minister is full of twists, turns and turbulence, but it is always toughest at the end. After all, most political careers end in failure. The United Kingdom has been very exemplary in demonstrating responsibility among themselves. To my surprise, it plays so differently for Kenyan politicians.
Na mimi nataka niwaambie itakuwa ni jambo ya uoga na aibu kubwa kama mimi nitatoroka kwa sababu ya changamoto ama matatizo yaliyoko, na ilihali mimi nimechaguliwa ili nitatue matatizo ya wananchi.
It is clearly now the will of the Parliamentary Conservative Party that there should be a new leader of that party and therefore a new Prime Minister.
Boris Johnson stepped down as the UK Prime Minister, unable to overcome a string of scandals around unlawful parties during the pandemic and broader questions about his integrity. In less than 3 years, he has gone from this to this.
Apologies to everybody for the misjudgments that I've made, that we may have made.
Johnson enjoyed a steady rise from journalist to London mayor to prime minister, despite gaffes that sometimes led to accusations of racism, sexism and spreading misinformation.
I'm sorry for the offence that I have caused, but I will continue to speak as directly as I can.
Johnson was once considered to be the golden boy of the Conservative Party. So, how did he climb so high, and why did this partnership fall apart? To answer that question, we need to understand what sort of politician Boris Johnson is, which means going right back to the start.
What are you not ashamed of, though, Boris?
Whatever there is not to be ashamed of.
Back when he was a political columnist in the 90s, Johnson's early appearance on the BBC's satirical current affairs show Have I Got News For You brought him national recognition and endeared him to the British public.
Thank you all in turning up in such fantastic numbers to this rally. It's really fantastic.
His celebrity status made him one of the most recognizable politicians in the United Kingdom. This helped him get elected to the parliament in 2001, and 7 years later, he became the first Conservative to win the race of mayor in London.
I know that there will be many whose pencils hovered for an instant before putting their X in my box.
As mayor, he found success focusing on issues such as crime and public transport. He also revered in promoting the London 2012 Olympics, including the infamous moments he got stuck on a zip wire. But Johnson had loftier ambitions.
We should take the chance now, as a country, to take back control. Take back control, take back control, take back the democratic control.
In 2016, Johnson was back in parliament and surprised many by going against the leader of his own party by backing Brexit.
I will be advocating vote leave.
Brexit is an abbreviation used to denote the exit of Britain from the European Union, but we will get to that in a second. He quickly became a leading voice in the United Kingdom to leave the European Union, which then won.
The British people have spoken and the answer is we're out.
The Brexit referendum, with the following negotiations with the EU, ended the careers of two Conservative prime ministers. It paved the way for Johnson to take power.
There will be people around the place who will question the wisdom of your decision.
In October 2019, he called a general election and led the Conservatives in the biggest victory since 1987, allowing the swift passage in December of his divorce deal with the EU.
I think Boris will get the Brexit done and people will not regret Boris being the next our new Prime Minister.
Johnson, though, would not be able to bask in his electoral victory for long.
The number of cases of COVID-19 outside China has increased 13-fold.
It's now a global pandemic.
In 2020, Johnson was faced with leading the country through the coronavirus pandemic, which has so far caused the deaths of more than 180,000 people in the UK. The Prime Minister was criticised for not acting quickly enough to prevent the spread of the virus and not taking it seriously from the start.
I was at a hospital the other night where I think there were actually a few coronavirus patients, and I shook hands with everybody.
At the end of March, Johnson announced that he had mild symptoms of the virus.
I've taken a test that has come out positive
and was hospitalized just over a week later. He spent 7 nights in the hospital, including 3 in the intensive care unit.
The pandemic in some ways played both to Johnson's great strength and his great weakness. The great strength was that he's an excellent communicator, and he really managed to rally the country behind him and also pushed a very successful vaccine program. The downfall was that he is a natural libertarian and is known for being somewhat indecisive, and so Britain sadly suffered one of the highest death tolls in Europe from the disease, in part because Mr. Johnson was very reticent to lock the country down.
Johnson faced backlash when he admitted to attending a party in Downing Street during a period when people could only meet one other person outside to prevent the spread of coronavirus.
Mr. Speaker, I want to apologise. I believed implicitly that this was a work event.
Some Conservative lawmakers defended Johnson, but many people across the country who had abided by the strict lockdown rules felt betrayed by the Prime Minister.
I don't trust him anymore. I'm sorry.
Neither do I, no. There's no trust.
I think it's an absolute disgrace, to be quite honest with you.
At this point, I think he's kind of lost his credibility as Prime Minister.
A police investigation into the events resulted in the Prime Minister's being fined, though he resisted demands to resign.
I've paid the fine and I once again offer a full apology.
The revelation proves to be the beginning of the end for Johnson. In June, he was booed by a crowd for a special Jubilee service for Thanksgiving for the Queen. And only a few days after that, he was a subject to vote of no confidence by his own party. He survived what was badly bruised. Around a third of Conservative lawmakers voted against him.
It's a good result.
I certainly think it is, because don't forget that when I first stood to be leader of the Conservative Party in 2019, I didn't get anything like that much support from my colleagues in Parliament. We're building that.
Meanwhile, Johnson is also accused of mishandling a series of scandals around Conservative lawmakers' misconduct.
I think it was a mistake, and I apologise for it. I think in hindsight it was the wrong thing to do.
And the party lost local and national elections, causing doubts over its popularity with voters. In July, a flurry of cabinet resignations, including the Treasury Chief and Health Secretary, rocked the government.
We have reason to question the truth and integrity of what we've all been told. And at some point, we have to conclude that enough is enough. I believe that point is now.
In the end, Boris Johnson was undone because he was no longer viewed as an electoral asset by MPs, but a liability. And the minute that lawmakers saw that Johnson was no longer likely to win them elections, they jettisoned him.
The former British Finance Minister Rishi Sunak has announced his bid to replace Boris Johnson after leading the Conservative lawmakers in tendering their resignations.
Someone has to grip this moment and make the right decisions. That's why I'm standing to be the next leader of the Conservative Party and your Prime Minister.
Sunak, whose father is a Kenyan, has insisted that he not only sought to succeed Boris as UK Prime Minister, but also as Conservative leader.
I want to lead this country in the right direction. I ran the toughest department in government during the toughest times when we faced the nightmare of COVID.
At the same time, Suella Braverman, whose mother is a Kenyan, has also announced a bid to succeed Boris Johnson as the Prime Minister.
I love this country. My parents came here with absolutely nothing, and it was Britain that gave them hope, security and opportunity, and this country has afforded me incredible opportunities in education and in my career, and I owe a debt of gratitude to this country, and to serve as Prime Minister would be the greatest honour.
Resignation from office can have a deeply moral dimension. Should we choose as Kenyans to make amends to unethical deeds, it is therefore no surprise that those calling for restoration of morality in public affairs should stress the virtue of resigning. Brian Gad, Maisha Television.